20% tariff on Denmark, and 7 other European nations opposed to his takeover plans.
Increased trade tariffs.
The impact of all of this will be felt for years to come.
What if I told you the next global battle isn't about missiles or soldiers, but about taxes, tariffs and money? No tanks, no airstrikes, just a threat. Donald Trump warns Europe of 25% tariffs not over trade, but over Greenland. Denmark, Germany, France, the UK and others suddenly face economic punishment unless a political demand is met. And in Nuuk, thousands take the streets chanting one message: we are not for sale. If this feels less like foreign policy and more like a hostile accounting exercise, that's because it is. This is something new. Tariffs are no longer just economic tools. They are weapons, used to pressure allies, force concessions, and reshape global power without firing a single shot. What used to happen behind closed doors now unfolds in public, through taxes and trade threats that hit businesses, jobs and entire economies. For decades, diplomacy kept tensions contained. Today, financial pressure does the talking. And once countries discover that economic coercion works, it's almost impossible to put that weapon back in the box. So, what do you think? Has economic pressure replaced diplomacy as the world's main weapon? Share your thoughts below. And before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video, because what comes next explains why stopping this may already be too late. For decades, tariffs were sold as boring economic tools, numbers on spreadsheets, levers to protect jobs or balance trade. That era is over. Today, tariffs are weapons.
Look at the pattern. Trump threatens 25% tariffs on European allies to force a political deal over Greenland. He warns entire countries that if they trade with Iran, they could face blanket penalties from the US economy. He pressures China, India, and even close partners not just to change prices, but to change behavior. This is no longer about economics. It's about leverage. Under this new logic, it doesn't matter what a country exports or how small the trade is. If it makes the wrong political choice, it pays the price. Economists call this secondary punishment. When entire nations are punished for who they deal with, not what they sell, the numbers show the scale. The US imports over $3 trillion in goods each year. A 25% tariff isn't symbolic. It can erase profit margins overnight, disrupt supply chains, and shave up to 0.5% off national GDP.
And that's the key shift. This isn't free trade breaking down, it's power being enforced. Greenland may look like an empty frozen island, but strategically, it's priceless. I mean, really priceless.
As Arctic ice melts, new shipping routes are opening, cutting travel times between Asia, Europe, and North America by up to 40%. Beneath the ice lie vast reserves of rare earths, oil, and gas, resources critical for modern economies and military technology. But the real value is security. Greenland sits at the heart of the Arctic, hosting early warning radar systems vital for missile defense. Control Greenland, and you control the northern gateway between Russia, Europe, and North America. That's why Trump fused security, territory, and tariffs into a single demand. Not negotiation, pressure. Accept US terms or face escalating economic pain. Europe didn't take it lightly. Emergency meetings were called in Brussels and trade agreements were frozen. Some leaders openly discussed deploying the EU's trade bazooka, a powerful anti-coercion tool allowing tariffs, investment bans, and market restrictions in retaliation.
This moment marks a historic shift. For the first time since NATO's creation, allies are threatening allies, not with troops, but with economic weapons. Behind the tariff headlines sits a quieter but far more dangerous battlefield: the tax war over big tech.
Over the past decade, US technology giants have come to dominate the global digital economy, accounting for over 70% of the world's largest platform companies. Yet many of them pay effective tax rates in single digits outside the US. That's why countries across Europe introduced digital services taxes, targeting profits generated from local users. The logic is simple. If a platform earns money from people in France, Germany, or Italy, it should be taxed there, even without a physical office. Washington sees this very differently. Trump withdrew the US from the Global Minimum Tax Agreement, which proposed a 15% floor on corporate taxation worldwide. From the US perspective, These taxes disproportionately hit American firms and weaken U.S. economic power abroad.
This dispute isn't about filling budgets. Global corporate tax revenues make up around 12% of government income in most advanced economies, but this war is about who writes the rules of globalization and who benefits from them. While politicians trade threats, businesses are already paying the bill, and this bill is paid by me and you.
Since late 2024, uncertainty around U.S. tariffs has pushed EU exporters to quietly reduce their exposure to the American market. The U.S. share of EU exports has fallen from around 21% to below 18%, as companies look for safer, more predictable destinations. Supply chains are being rerouted in real time. Manufacturers are shifting production, logistics hubs are moving, and contracts are being rewritten, all of which raise costs. According to industry estimates, reconfiguring a major supply chain can increase operating expenses by 5 to 10%, costs that rarely stay with companies and often end up on consumer prices. Investment is also slowing. When firms don't know which country might face the next tariff, expansion plans are delayed or canceled entirely. On top of that, multinationals now risk double taxation, paying digital taxes in one country and corporate taxes in another, with legal disputes dragging on for years.
And this is the core problem. Markets hate uncertainty, and this tax war creates permanent uncertainty. On its own, a tax war won't crash the global economy, but this isn't happening in isolation. Global public debt has surged past $100 trillion, interest rates remain elevated, and growth across advanced economies is already fragile, hovering around 1 to 2%. Add geopolitical instability, and the system becomes dangerously sensitive.
The real risk lies in escalation loops. One tariff triggers retaliation. Retaliation sparks financial countermeasures. Markets respond by pulling investment. Currencies wobble, borrowing costs rise, and confidence evaporates. History shows how fast this can spiral. During previous trade wars, global trade volumes fell by up to 5%, shaving meaningful chunks off GDP without a single recession headline at first. Businesses freeze spending. Consumers pull back. Governments collect less tax just as debt servicing becomes more expensive. What starts as pressure turns into slowdowns. This is why economists are uneasy. Not because collapse is guaranteed, but because the margins for error are gone.
As one rule always holds true, trade wars don't end in victory, they end in damage. So, is there a way out of this? Possibly, but none of the options are clean. Governments could strike backroom deals, quietly easing tariffs in exchange for political concessions. Courts could impose legal limits on executive power, slowing or blocking the most aggressive trade actions. And temporary truces could pause the damage, buying time without solving the core conflict. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Economic coercion now works, and leaders know it. Tariffs, taxes, and financial pressure deliver results faster than diplomacy, without votes, treaties, or public debate. Once the tool proves effective, it's hard to abandon it. That's why this moment matters. The global tax war didn't begin with a speech or a declaration, it started quietly. One tariff, one tax, one threat at a time. And now it's shaping supply chains, prices, jobs, and alliances across the world you live in. So, here is a question. Will tariffs and taxes replace diplomacy as the world's main weapon? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss our upcoming content. Catch you in the next one.